How two wandering cows started a culture war. Interesting. When Hornee and Blackee. Horny. When Hornee and Blackee strayed from their pasture, they set out a chaotic chain of events involving death threats, chicken rustlers, and Joaquin Phoenix. The town of Newfane, New York hasn't been the same. Hornee and Blackee are the names of the cows. Is it just because of their names? One summer day, a cow and a steer walked away from their farm. The cow was black and was named Blackee. So these two Among Us, yeah, I guess so. The cow walked away. The cow was black and was named Blackee. The steer was golden brown with two stubby horns. He was named Hornee. Oh man. Nobody knows when the cows got out or how. They crossed the field and rode and wandered onto a neighbor's yard. This type of thing sometimes happens in rural western New York, where pastures and farms stretch for miles. But Hornee and Blackee had crossed not into another farm, but into an animal sanctuary whose owner saves farm livestock from slaughter and encourages visitors to become vegan. What? Cringe. Be vegan. That's fine. I'm not trashing you for being vegan. Whatever. I'm obviously out of shape. I eat things that aren't good for me. But when you start telling people to become vegan because it's like a moral thing, God, it's cringe. Like, Vegan Gains, I like Vegan Gains. I like his charisma. I'm not like, what is it called? I am not when you study nutrition, a nutritionist, whatever. I'm not a nutritionist. But I know a lot about animals. I understand why animals eat the things they do for the most part. Sure, it gets a little weird sometimes, and not every animal's the same. But humans are animals, just like a cow is, just like a chicken is, just like a snake is. Can we be vegan? Technically, with modern science, yes. But if you were to throw a person out in the woods to live on their own, they were living without modern conveniences, and you threw them out in the woods, and they had no meat, they could probably survive for a bit off of plant material, but they would not survive that long. Even if they had crops that they could grow. Like, you could give them a farm with just plants, and they would not survive that long, or they would be very unhealthy. Because meat, humans don't produce certain vitamins, like I think B12 is one of them, that we need for our cells to work properly. And meat is the only place to really get that in large enough quantities. Sure, you can eat like legumes and, beans and stuff. It's not just protein. Yeah, it's not just the protein that's the problem. You can get protein, but it's essential vitamins and minerals that you can't get as a human from eating plants. Like, I was even talking about the other day about ruminants. So cows, their digestive system. Yes, they eat a shit ton of grass. But they get a lot of their nutrients, their nutrition, from the stuff that lives in their gut that they digest, and that's where they get their protein. Like, they have bacteria that feed off of the plants, and then they digest that bacteria in another part of their stomach, and that's where they get their protein from. we don't have a stomach like that. We can't do that. So we consider humans omnivores or facultative carnivores. We're omnivores. We are omnivores. Straight up. We can digest plants. We can get a lot of nutrition. In fact, the majority of what we should be eating is probably plants. I'm not denying that. We could go either way, though. It depends on the group of people. So if you live in an area that has plenty of resources of both plants and animals, you can eat more of one versus the other. There are some groups of people that eat more plants than they do animals, and vice versa. It depends on if you look at humans as an animal and not just what we think of humans as, each population does things by what's in the area. It doesn't matter who it is. Some people that you can look at, I'll give an example of being able to digest milk, into adulthood. The reason that most people are lactose intolerant is because their ancestors, and I've gone over this before, their ancestors didn't ever evolve the necessity to do so. Adaptations, evolution adaptations, the same thing. Same thing. You're just, I'm not going to be pedantic about it. So their ancestors never adapted to be able to digest lactose into adulthood because they didn't need to. The reason that humans got that ability was, I believe it was in the Middle East. I did research on this a while ago. I don't remember the exact. I believe it was in the Middle East. And they would carry like goats and cows. I think it was goats. I want to say it was goats. And inside the stomach of the goat, they would, like a baby goat, they'd eat it, and there would be milk left over in there, and it would curdle, and it would turn basically the early form of cheese. And they would eat it because that's it tastes all right, and it's nutritious. It's milk. It has nutrition in it. And they'd also, I believe they would carry the milk as well, because you'd rather deal with an upset stomach and farts, but you have sustenance there. You know that it's sustenance. And over time, people eventually adapted and got the ability to hold what babies can do, so they make lactase. That is it's a protein that binds to the lactose and breaks it down, so that they can digest milk, or the lactose. And over time, certain genes stayed on in the population, and people started being able to digest the lactose later in life, and that gets passed down, and all of a sudden in that area, that's an adaptation that's beneficial, because now you have another thing you can eat, another thing you can consume for nutrition, and that gets passed down through the population. And so it's still a smaller fraction of the population, but a fraction of the population can now digest milk. So it is an evolutionary adaptation for survival. That's literally what it is. Okay? Humans lost our ability to take certain types of nutrients from plants as we evolved from primates that are more, that are herbivores. We lost the ability. Like, gorillas can subsist only on fruits and veggies, basically fruits and plant material. But they're evolved to do that. We basically lost that. Our small intestines are a lot longer than our large intestines. The large intestine is mostly used for breaking down plant material. The small intestine is better at taking stuff out of meat, basically. And it's a very complicated thing But the point is that, and our teeth as well, we're adapted to be able to eat almost anything. But we're not adapted to really only eat one thing. And I will put plants under the one thing. We have to have, we're omnivores. We eat a lot of things. And so we're not specialized in eating that one particular thing, such as eating only meat has its downfall for some people too. You know, your body has to completely go through a different process to be able to get the energy it needs out of only eating meat. It's possible. It's probably not the best thing for most people. Eating only plants, I know I'm going on a rant here, but eating only plants, you can survive on it, but you're going to be lacking something, since certain people will lack too much and they will become sickly and it's not going to be good for them. Some of them might be able to, based on their genetic profiles. It depends on the person. But if the average person has both meat and vegetables in their diet, that's where it's a happiness. It's this little combination, because we're omnivores and we can eat both. Rant over. So people who say it for a moral reason to be vegan, I can understand why. I can empathize with your feelings on it, but I don't agree with it. All right. The next morning, Tracy Murphy, the sanctuary owner, found the cows in her yard. She herded them into a pen, she said, and immediately notified the local animal control agency. 6 days later, an investigator with the agency came to check in on the cows. He interviewed people around the area and learned that the neighbor, Scott Gregson, was missing a heifer and a steer. Clearly, the cows discovered at the sanctuary belonged to Mr. Gregson. But when Mr. Gregson asked for them to be returned, Miss Murphy refused. On the advice of a lawyer, she demanded proof that Mr. Gregson actually owned the cows and demanded he pay $2,500 to settle a lien she claimed on the cows, reimburse the sanctuary for 9 days worth of hay, straw, and care. This happened not too long ago near me, except it was with a tortoise. I'll go into that in a second. This literally the exact same thing happened to a guy who lost his tortoise out of his yard, and a animal sanctuary picked it up. They found it, and then they charged him a certain amount per day to care for the animal. Oh, this is making me angry. Or Miss Murphy suggested maybe her sanctuary could buy the cows, whom she was now calling Little Willow and Ishmael. That was 2 years ago. Since then, the case of the wandering cows has inspired death threats, rowdy protests, shadowy figures skulking the woods, intercessions by Fox News and Joaquin Phoenix, stolen chickens, county and state legislation, and a court battle featuring a rotating cast of lawyers, one of whom was convicted of a felony conspiracy to commit trespass in the liberation of ducks from a farm in California. Yeah, ransomed his own animal. Yeah, I'll go over in a second. In the town of Newfane, New York, population 3,200, has never been the same. Oh God. Before she came to own a 27-acre animal sanctuary, Tracy Murphy gave little thought to animals. She liked her home in Cheektowaga, a Buffalo suburb, and her job in banking. Then in 2004, she saw a billboard with a picture of a caged beagle used for product testing. God. The billboard disturbed her, so she searched the internet for animals abused by labs, circuses, and farms. What hit me the hardest was the cow, she said Miss Murphy, 61, describing Miss Murphy. Okay, so she's not married. Not going to get into that. Describing videos from the slaughterhouse. I had a nice life, but I wasn't happy. I kept saying that I wanted to move out to the country and I wanted to start a sanctuary. In January 2013, she finally did, buying a skinny rectangle of property in Newfane, 2 miles from Lake Ontario on the edge of a Buffalo, Niagara Falls metropolitan area. At the time, she quit her bank job and moved to the suburbs to her 27 acres. She adopted chickens and a turkey. At a farm auction, she paid $50 for a newborn calf. She named him Albert and hosted Kiss a Cow events, which attracted people to learn about veganism. The popularity of this event helped win grants to pay for the care of the residents of Asha's farm sanctuary. Okay, everyone wanted to come and see Albert, she said, hundreds of people. It was in the paper. A quarter mile away, Miss Murphy's neighbor, Mr. Gregson, was moving into his new home too. A New York State trooper, he had left a small ranch home on a busy 2-lane highway outside the city of Niagara Falls, moving to a rambling colonial on a narrow roadway in Newfane. Miss Gregson liked the quiet, the rural setting, and the chance to raise farm animals of his own. This was our little retreat, said Mr. Gregson, 44. From his porch, he could see the woman across the road erect barns for animal sanctuary. He didn't really pay much attention. Western New York is rich in animal rescue organizations, including at least one other farm animal sanctuary. He had some cattle, including Hornee and Blackee. Mr. Gregson wanted to teach his 2 young children to care for livestock. And after grazing in a side pasture, a fattened and butchered cow could net a few $1,000s. Then 2 of his cows went missing. Mr. Gregson drove to the sanctuary to ask for his cows back on July 25th, 9 days after they went missing. He showed up with a fellow state trooper as well as animal control investigators and a member of his family. He was not in uniform, arriving as a neighbor, but things got testy quick. Well, I'll come get the animals, Mr. Gregson said. No, you're not coming to get the animals, Miss Murphy replied. Miss Murphy and Mr. Gregson's wife both started filming the encounter. Even though Mr. Gregson had receipts proving he owned the cows, which he would later show to the state police, Miss Murphy refused to give them up. Mr. Gregson finally drove off in frustration, leaving Hornee and Blackee behind. Miss Murphy took on Facebook Live and asked her supporters to tag and share the video to let them know that law enforcement is violating my civil rights. In another Facebook post, Miss Murphy published Mr. Gregson's home address and telephone number. So she doxed the guy after stealing, because that's theft, stealing his animals, and is going and crying to Facebook. Oh my God. Soon, Mr. Gregson received phone messages at his house and threatened to rape and kill his children. Oh my God! According to the court documents filed by the Niagara County District Attorney's Office. The town of Newfane seemed to unanimously unite behind Mr. Gregson. Someone doxed Miss Murphy. She received threat. Wait, but she doxed him first. I mean, not that doxing is good, because it's not. Doxing is not good. But now you're going to cry about being doxed? She received threatening voice messages, emails, and comments on Facebook calling for her to be lynched. Oh my God. Give the cow back! Give the cows back. Hornee and Blackee need to go home. Neighbors gathered for a rowdy protest at the edge of the animal sanctuary, carrying signs that said, "Not show cows," and heifer hider. Oh my God. As a parade of cars, trucks, and tractors rolled past, leaning on their horns and hooting. To taunt Miss Murphy's veganism, some men erected a large grill on her property line and cooked steaks, according to... See, that's cringe, too. That's just as cringe, to sit there and, like, cook steaks and, like, be like, we're gonna eat meat right in front of you. That's just as cringe. Don't do that stuff. That's just antagonism and stupid. You got the facts on your side. You don't have to also be like, I'm eating meat right in front of you. A man in a cow costume stood on the sunroof of a pickup, pumped his fist, and the driver laid on the horn. Someone on a motorcycle did donuts in Miss Murphy's yard, tearing up patches of lawn. Don't do that stuff. I was afraid for my life, Miss Murphy said. Of course you... That's always... I was afraid for my life. I've gotten threats. I've gotten this. I stole his cows. I also doxed him first, but now I'm the victim. I mean, it's the internet. What do you think is going to happen? You went to the internet. You went to Facebook first. Joaquin Phoenix weighs in. Oh my God. What does the Joker got to say? I know he's in a lot more than the Joker. I love Joaquin Phoenix. He's great. 2 days after the protests, 5 state troopers, all of them Mr. Gregson's colleagues, arrived at the sanctuary to execute a search warrant. They arrested Miss Murphy. Neighbors loaded the cows into a trailer, a scene that was filmed and quickly uploaded to Facebook. When Miss Murphy appeared in the court that evening, she was chained at the wrist, waist, and ankles. She was charged with third-degree grand larceny, a felony punishable by up to 7 years in prison. The judge also imposed a gag order barring Miss Murphy from posting any content on any subject on any social media platform. See, imagine if vegan teacher and steak and butter gal meet each other. It will be this all over again. Oh my god. Vegan teacher's entertaining. I know she's cringe, but like I loved the video that she did with Oompaville. Like those videos were fantastic. I loved it. Getting vegan Taco Bell. Fantastic. That did not keep her supporters from speaking out. Joaquin Phoenix, the actor known for his outspoken veganism. Oh my god, no, Joaquin, why? Learned on social media incorrectly that Miss Murphy had named the wandering cows Joaquin and Phoenix. He released a statement to a local newspaper via Michelle Cho, his social impact advisor, to so harshly punish a woman who was simply showing kindness to 2 individuals who had wandered onto her properties. Astounding. No, that's not why. That's not why she was punished. She was punished for stealing the cows and not giving them back. That's theft. She was being punished for theft, not just holding on to the cows. While Newfane, though, few people agreed with Mr. Phoenix. Ed Pettit, a retired engineer who lived down the road from Miss Murphy, drove with several supporters to the property of an Ashes Sanctuary board member and strode onto her property. The board member said she was not involved in the dispute. This has gone too far, she said, as Mr. Pettit filmed the confrontation. Mr. Pettit retreated to the streets, grabbed a megaphone, and turned his camera on himself in a Facebook Live video as he led a small protest. I'm sorry if I disrupt your dinner. That was provided by farmers while I'm here fighting for the rights of farmers, he yelled to the neighborhood. Just cringe altogether. Quite honestly. Early in the legal saga, the team of lawyers almost done with this. Early in the legal saga, the team of lawyers representing came to include Wayne Sung, a prominent animal rights activist and lawyer based in California, part of the open rescue movement, while advocates entering farms to free suffering animals and to report conditions to law enforcement. Almost a year after her arrest, Mr. Sung invited Miss Murphy to speak at a Right to Rescue summit that he organized in the suburbs of Buffalo. She spoke to a small crowd about her case and then left. The rest of the days was spent teaching about 20 activists the practical aspect of open rescue, which farms to target, how to enter property safely, and how to win the social media battle. What? So wait, you go in and just steal people's animals and say you're rescuing them? Is that what that is? Kimberly Simeth, a local resident, took to Facebook to criticize the event's attendees. 2 days later, 50 chickens went missing from her farm. Oh, so you're just terrible people stealing other people's property. That's some bullshit. I always felt very secure here, Miss Simeth said. Now I feel really exposed. I'm starting to question, what am I doing out here? That same week, a farmer named Paul Strobel noticed 2 people in his driveway, 2 miles south of Ashes Sanctuary. He watched as the trespassers, a man and woman, approached his cattle gate, filming his livestock with their phones. They were outside yelling. The pair returned to their car and sped off. Mr. Strobel gave chase in the pickup, but the couple got away. She brought these people here, Mr. Strobel, 54, said on animal activists. If she doesn't get punished, it'll be an all-out war on us farmers. Many in the area agree. Days after the incident, Rob Ort, the New York Senate Republican minority leader, organized a news conference on Mr. Strobel's farm. He discussed legislation to increase criminal penalties against farm trespassers. The bill remains in committee and made what seems to be veiled threat. This is a dangerous situation, Mr. Ort said to a small crowd of journalists. The Second Amendment exists to protect persons and property, and I would remind these advocates of that fact. Yeah, but you live in New York. doesn't really mean that much there, does it? He wasn't the only government official who wanted to go to war with animal activists. Sheriff Michael Felicetti of Niagara County posted a warning on his official Facebook page asking residents to be on the lookout for suspicious activity. At least 14 people responded to the post by making death threats against Miss Murphy. He went on Fox and Friends first, where he blamed the trespassing incidents on animal rights activists. Though none of the trespassers were stopped or questioned, it's not rescuing, he said, it's a crime. Sheriff Felicity did not respond to the interview requests. For his part, Mr. Sung maintained that the training focused on targeting corporate farms, not family farms like those in Newfane. Miss Murphy said she knew nothing about the trespassers or the chicken thieves. I'm not connected to Asha, she said. It could be anybody. Blackee and Hornee did not live to see the fallout of their wandering. Soon after Mr. Gregson retrieved them from Asha's sanctuary, he sold the cows and they were slaughtered. No, Blackee and Hornee! I hope you made a good ribeye. Oh, God. What a story. This is very intriguing. I'm enjoying this a lot. Just the degeneracy on both sides. I mean, I can understand why the initial people, Mrs. Sanders or whatever her name is, Miss Murphy. Miss Murphy is the bad guy here. She started it. She stole the property, and she decided to go to Facebook to try to get sympathy, and it ended up blowing up, and people are going to do on the internet what people are going to do, unfortunately. I don't Mr. Gregson, it's not I don't really blame him for it, to be quite honest, but still. His law license Sung no longer represents Miss Murphy. His law license was placed on interim suspension following his own felony conviction in California last November for a protest in which he trespassed on a farm. The charge against Miss Murphy was reduced to a misdemeanor of petty larceny. She maintains that the law is on her side. The neighborly thing to do is to follow the law, and that's what I did, she said, describing her efforts to report the missing animals and to obtain payment and proof of ownership before giving the cattle back. What's up? She still faces up to a year in jail. The trial, after years of court argument over venue. What do you do here? Well, I'm going over a very interesting animal case where some cattle wandered onto a neighbor's property in New York, and the neighbor was a vegan activist and refused to give the cows back, and then doxed the guy because he tried to get the cows back, and it was a full-out war after that. She still faces up to a year in jail. The trial, after years of court arguments over venue, evidence, and gag orders, is scheduled to start in October. If this had been an issue over a lost or stolen iPhone, this case would have been dismissed within months, said Chris Carathy, staff attorney at the University of Denver, Sturm College of Law's Animal Activist Legal Defense Project. That's a mouthful. Who has led the team of lawyers representing Miss Murphy through the criminal case. It's a case of a world gone insane. Yeah, she stole the cows. He came over with the proof that you said that's all you wanted. He came over with the proof, with troopers with him, being like, hey, this guy wants his cows back because legally they're his. Here's the proof. And you said no. And then you went to Facebook to cry about it, and you didn't like when people started freaking out on you. And then you doxed the guy. I have no sympathy for you, Miss Murphy. No sympathy. What's up, Joker? Though the protests on the edge of the sanctuary have stopped, you can still find anti-Murphy yard signs around Newfane that read, support local farmers, not bullies. Just beyond Miss Murphy's property line stands a large red sign that reads, compassion is not a crime, but stealing is. Exactly. Miss Murphy and Mr. Gregson haven't spoken since their confrontation last year, or the confrontation 2 years ago. Neither is afraid of their neighbor. Instead, they fear who threatened murder on Facebook and Instagram. Mr. Gregson bought new locks For his farm gates, he attached security cameras to his farm. Miss Murphy did the same. Correction was made on July 21st. An earlier version of this article misidentified the charge that one of the Tracy Murphy lawyers was convicted of in a case of involving stolen ducks. The lawyer, Wayne Sung, was convicted of felony conspiracy to commit trespass, not the theft of ducks. It is also misstated that the consequence of Mr. Sung's convictions, his law license was placed on interim suspension. He was not disbarred. Okay.